Chapter 205 to 206. The door closed behind the trio that entered their assigned room, and Rei swiftly touched the wall, causing seals to spread through the room, securing it while destroying any surveillance device or jutsu. With room secured, silence spread through the room, and Rei awkwardly looked at Ringo, who had a very telling frown on her lips. Her discontent became almost palpable the second they entered the room, and she made sure Rei knew it, due to her discreet but intense stare through the entire negotiation. Ringo knew it wouldn't do to show any form of surprise at Rei's exclamation that he wanted her to become the 5th Mizukage. Discontent would be even worse than surprise, and as such, she simply set her expression into a cold facade and used years of her training to relax the tension in her body and erase any kind of body language that could give her away. She was simply happy she didn't have to talk during the negotiation of terms, but now the tiring talks were over, and she was locked in a secured, soundproof room with Rei. Ringo's eyes gazed into Rei's and her lips opened. What the hell was that? Rei sighed, knowing he owed Ringo a proper explanation. It couldn't be easy for her to stay indifferent during the hours he negotiated a satisfactory deal with the clan heads, especially since they were talking about her responsibilities, limitations and rights once she became the Mizukage, and didn't even ask her about her opinion. Sorry, Ringo, Rei started, rubbing the bridge of his nose. But the opportunity was simply far too good to not go for it. I could only choose between you and Mei, and you know how Mei is. She wouldn't be able to get past the first week of being Mizukage without blowing the entire Kirigakure up and calling it an accident. Yes, you know how I am, Ringo, Mei teasingly interjected from her bed, where she laid with her hands supporting her chin as she stared between Rei and Ringo with great interest. You shut up. Ringo snapped at Mei, letting her anger briefly show before she took a deep breath. It had to be said, Rei was using Ringo's love for him in his favor. He knew she couldn't really argue against him. Mei, however, wasn't so lucky, and if she kept talking, she would become an apt scapegoat for Ringo to relieve her stress. Then again, Rei definitely didn't think the resistance would appreciate having their hideout leveled to the ground. Mei, stay quiet, Rei stated, not averting his eyes from Ringo. Okay. Ringo took another calming breath and slowly sat down on the side of her own bed. I would like a more in-depth explanation. Rei wryly smiled and walked towards Ringo. He sat next to her on the bed and put his arm around her shoulder, pulling her close to him. Only when he felt her relax and lean into his body did he start talking in a calm and soft voice. I came here expecting many things based on Conan's intelligence. I expected leaving without making any deal, which would mean pulling things from the shadows to get things done. I expected a contract of trade agreement highly favoring us. I expected benefits for Yozora, and I expected many other things. Rei noticed Ringo's eyes becoming a bit restless, so he decided to go straight to the point. More importantly, I expected the negotiations to last a few days, hence I would have time to ease you into the idea. Well, that obviously didn't work, since the second I saw exactly how much the clans wanted to end the war, and how stingy they were about it. You pounced on their greed to get the ball rolling. Ringo nodded in understanding. But I don't want to be Mizukage. I love you, I love forging, I love swords. I can't do paperwork all day or lead a damn village. I have to agree that Mei would be utterly useless in such a position. A loud, "Hey!" sounded from Mei's general direction, but I am not much better. If you want me to do this, I can. I will even with great reluctance stop my forging, since I won't have the time for it. Ringo's expression showed exactly how painful saying those words were to her. Forging became her hobby after they settled in Uzushio, but by now it was her lifeline, not unlike being one of the 7 swordsmen was her lifeline in her youth. But even then, I don't think I can do a great job at it. This is Conan's niche. This is something Tsunade was trained for, but me? I am a killer, Rei, not an administrator, and definitely not a leader material, she added, lowering her head on Rei's shoulder in resignation. Hearing Ringo out, Rei chuckled. It was so like her to accept whatever fate he presented her with without any questions. Her assassin training really shone through in this aspect of what made Ringo. Ah, don't worry, that's what the negotiations were for, Rei playfully said with a knowing smirk, causing Ringo to become confused, whereas Mei's eyes bulged out as she burst into almost hysterical laughter. enjoying the change of atmosphere from gloomy and resigned to a cheerful one. Once May's laughter filled the room, Ray simply sat back, contently hugging the confused Ringo, who was slowly working out the meaning of his words as he caressed her hair. Few seconds passed and May was still giggling, trying to stop herself in vain when astonishment appeared on Ringo's face. "You. The entire time you accepted the terms the clan head set up. It seemed that as long as I become the Mizukage, you care not if I am but a figurehead without any real power over the village." The talks lasted only a few hours and a deal was struck. Normally, something like this would mean days of arguing, but you were oddly accommodating, only asking for some privileges and advantages for me that clans were happy to give. "It was all on purpose, wasn't it?" Ringo finished, still in a bit of disbelief. It wasn't as if Ray threw the negotiations. He secured a lot of advantages for Ringo. But from the political perspective, he might as well make her into a political eunuch. Once she became the Mizukage, the deal struck today would strip away most of her power over the village, which also translated into way fewer responsibilities for Ringo. "You played them!" May almost wheezed from her spot on her bed. "The pricks probably think how brilliantly they outsmarted you and secured themselves help for the rebellion for no cost, while also getting more power in the village afterward, all the while you got exactly what you wanted from the deal." She snickered, punching the pillow in giddiness. Ray smiled, lowering his head slightly to look at Ringo, who was leaning on his chest. "Yes, making sure Ringo doesn't have to deal with the bullshit of being Mizukage was the least I could do for her since I asked her to take the position," Ray said, and suddenly could feel Ringo's arms affectionately tightening around his waist. Leaning forward, Ray softly pecked Ringo's lips. "Plus, nobody ever said you have to stop forging. Did you already forget we can teleport? All you will have to do is send a shadow clone to Kirigakure every morning, and you are free to stay holed up in your forge all day." He shrugged with a mirthful smirk. Really, the clan heads grabbed more power for their clans, and by doing so they inadvertently took the responsibilities upon themselves. But, as for you being reduced to a powerless figurehead, that doesn't matter at all. The important part is you holding said position," Ray said before turning towards May. "Tell me, May, what is Ringo?" Ringo furrowed her brows, thinking about the answer. She felt a bit stupid for not being able to answer instantly, but Ray simply reassuredly squeezed her. He asked May because he knew Ringo would take a long time to get the answer, since she would have never considered it from the necessary point of view. "She is an SS rank ninja," May instantly answered, knowing what Ray meant. After all, she had enough bruises from all the sparring against Ringo to get such a thing thoroughly hammered into her brain, especially since Ringo found a way to counter most of her techniques. Ringo didn't have a special bloodline or some other kind of advantage. She was all about pure kenjutsu with lightning release mastery. It won't matter if you are a political figurehead, Ringo. Not when you have the power to level the entire village alongside its occupants. The clan heads have no clue what SS rank means. They probably still see you as someone they could get easily rid of, as they do with problematic S-rank ninjas. May shook her head in amusement. "Yes?" Ray took over. "Might makes right only applies once one is so much stronger than others that it is not even a fight. That's why Hashirama and Madara could single-handedly change the way of life of the ninjas from the entire continent by just making their own village. Kirigakure never saw firsthand what it means to be an SS rank. They produced some pretty strong S-rank ninjas, but there is a massive difference between S-rank and SS rank. Hence, once you give Yagura a beatdown of a century, it wouldn't matter what is written on some paper, as the limitation of your power over the village," Ray said in a smooth voice. "You want to take over Kirigakure through me?" Ringo understood. "Not really," Ray lightheartedly denied. "I simply want to have the option to take over Kirigakure at any given moment. After all, Mizukage is a lifelong position unless you decide to retire. And with the nature energy packed into you and your bijou, you will live a very long life. Just lucky that the clan so readily volunteered to take care of the responsibilities for you, eh?" "Now that's positively evil," Ringo said as her lips curled up in amusement. "Somehow I don't think becoming Mizukage is such a bad thing anymore." Ray sat alone in the dining room of the mansion, enjoying early breakfast after Ringo decided to cheer his night up after their little conversation about the Mizukage thing. Naturally, that meant May decided to join up, and one thing led to another. Hence, Ray needed a very big breakfast to get back his energy. And due to his schedule as the leader of his own hidden village, he was too used to waking up early to sleep in with the girls who were still deep in their dreams, snugly hugging each other's naked form under the sheets. As Ray was eating his scrambled eggs, suddenly Ao sat opposite him, putting a plate with buttered bread and some kind of fish on the table. Ray looked at him with a raised eyebrow, silently asking Ao what he wanted with his eyes. "I came to talk," Ao gruffly said, making Ray roll his eyes. "No shit, Sherlock." He mentally grumbled, but outwardly he simply sighed and continued eating. There was no harm in letting Ao talk, and Ray had to admit he was quite interested in what the big, bad rogue hunter wanted with the albeit smaller, but certainly badder rogue ninja. "I had a very long night." Ao slowly started with an expression that showed how unsure of what to say he was, and Ray barely restrained a snort. "Yeah, me too, buddy. I doubt our reason for staying up late was the same, though," Ray mirthfully quipped, but Ao simply ignored the jab. "You see, I was always the guy sent to clean up disloyal pieces of shit like you," Ao indifferently stated. "Find, kill, get rid of the body. That was my job and I was good at it. And now here I am, calmly talking with a person who could easily be at the top of my kill list. Funny, isn't it?" "You mean the fact you think you got a chance?" "Yeah, it sure is." Ray nonchalantly shrugged. Ao simply sighed in defeat. It was obvious to the man how uncomfortable he was with the current situation. It must be quite hard for someone like Ao to stomach not only hiring Kirigakure's rogue ninjas for help, but also deciding to make one of them the next Mizukage. Ray mentally summed up. "The meeting yesterday, it got me thinking," Ao said in frustration as his shoulders sagged, but his eyes didn't stop giving Ray a piercing, intense stare even for a second. "I am no politician. I am a hunter ninja. I spend most of my life hunting and know the worth of power. I know exactly what you aim for with making Ringo into a Mizukage." "Oh?" Ray playfully hummed. "Honestly?" The second Ao started showing his feelings openly. Ray knew there is no need to worry about him despite the man clearly hating his situation. If he was really hostile, he would be all cold and glaring. Ray really didn't feel any need to hide his plan from the man the second he showed his frustration openly. It meant he made a decision. Ray had no idea what kind of decision, but it was certainly interesting. Then again, it was not like the clan heads would renege on the contract. It was too good for them to do that. "I may not care for it, but I know how the game is played," Ao started, pulling Ray out of his thoughts. "But it appears that yesterday I was the only one who realized you do not exactly play the same game as the clan heads." Ray slightly leaned forward with a disarming smile, supporting his chin with his hands, and listened. "It's sad, isn't it?" Ao bitterly frowned. Before Ray could react, however, he continued. "But I can understand it. The politics of Kirigakure were always corrupted. After so many generations of it, it is no wonder the clan heads simply don't get it." "Hey, you will have to enlighten me, Ao. I never cared for Kirigakure's politics, and definitely never got involved in them, despite living in the village for over a decade in the past," Ray said, subtly reminding Ao that he was once Kirigakure's ninja, and that he defected. For some reason, Ray really couldn't help himself. He liked the conflicted look in Ao's eyes every time it was brought up. "Right," Ao commented quietly but with a lot of sarcasm. "If you had no idea, you wouldn't try to exploit the clan head's ignorance," Ao added, hating how smug Ray looked. Suddenly, he gained a sad look. "It's really vexing, you know. The clan heads are supposed to know better, but I am not surprised. With the formation of hidden villages, the clan heads became more of political animals, rather than people understanding the importance of pure strength. The heirs to the clans are mostly trained to quickly get jonin rank, getting so much preferential treatment, it is not even funny. They no longer put as much importance on personal power as they do on politics. After all, S-rank ninja who normally could not be defeated by them are but a small annoyance once they use politics to make him a public enemy number one. That's why your plan is going to work." "Yeah, I always found it funny how the clan kids like to intrude on the academy graduation day, coming there already blooded, trained and ready to kill, while competing against scared kiddies with subpar training compared to them. But I digress. It's all for the prestige of their clan, no? Ray added, causing Ao to wince. I always hated when the clan kids decided to participate in the academy graduation ceremony. Then again, that's one of the reasons why I am fine with what you are doing. Ao explained, and Ray lifted his eyebrow again. What do you mean? Ray's demeanor shifted. You know, Ao's expression bitterly scrunched. I always found it wasteful to kill off at the very least 50% of the graduating class. So much talent wasted. So many late bloomers killed, a man for what? Sure, Kirigakure was raising Jounin-level ninjas quickly and efficiently, but our numbers were always lower compared to other villages of the Big Fire. That's also the reason why we are regarded as the weakest of the five, despite our numerous advantages. Take Suna, for example. They have a cold war between the daimyo and the KasiCair going on. The daimyo has had them under an embargo for years now, and yet Kirigakure can still not measure up to Suna. It's pathetic. Ao looked straight at Ray. Simply put, I am sick of it. Kirigakure needs a change. That's why I betrayed my own village and everything I ever believed in by joining the rebellion. Not because of the clans. These self-important pricks can burn for all I care. Especially after selling the village to you without even realizing it. No. What I want is a better Kirigakure. Gao stopped and took a deep breath as if he was about to make a life-changing announcement. That's why. I want you to know that no matter how much I hate your traitorous ass, I am willing to work with you as long as you make Kirigakure into a better place. Saying his piece, Ao stood up and went away while Ray amusedly watched him. In short, Ringo is his best shot at Kirigakure being improved after the Civil War, huh? Looks like the 5th Mizukage will have her faithful secretary after all. Who knew? Good for Ringo, at least she will have a person who can fill the paperwork for her.